Was okay. Hello, everyone. Hello, 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 and welcome to Align You TV. Well, I'm super excited today because I have the beautiful, lovely, and talented Shaye Wooward with me today, and she's going to tell you all about what she's been up to over the last few months and how she can help those of you that are having maybe some focus problems, some procrastination problems, and maybe figuring out why. So without further ado, thank you for being here. I'm going to hand over to Shaye. Shaye, tell us a little bit about who you are and who you work with.
Well, we are coming from cold Utah right now, so it is pretty chilly. The high today is only probably going to be like 20-something degrees, so nice hoodie and your beautiful tank top and everything, but I'm going to stay warm right here. A little bit about me. I am a mama of a blended family of 9 kids. We have 19 grandkids and even 1 great-granddaughter. No, I don't look like I could have a granddaughter. My husband is a little older, so that's what makes it a little easier to do that. But over the last, I'd say probably 2 years, I've been really focused on helping people dealing with their focus, because that's something that we all struggle with. I mean, I struggle with it because I have ADHD and I was late diagnosed. I wasn't diagnosed until either my late 30s, early 40s, which is not uncommon. And the more that I find out about ADHD, the more that I'm hearing about that. So if you're feeling like you're all of a sudden feeling a lot more confused, brain fog, no focus, anxiety out of the roof, it's okay. It might be normal. It's fine. Just take a breath. So that's kind of what I've been working on, and some projects that I've got going on also. So yeah, being a busy mama.
Excellent. Okay. And in terms of the potential challenges for you, when did you notice that things started to be different? How did you come to this line of work, Shaye?
Well, I've always had ADHD. I just didn't know it. So that's not uncommon for women. It really came about after my son was diagnosed with it when he was, I think, in 5th grade. And so they said, oh, just to let you know, it is hereditary. And I thought, oh, maybe I should look at this, because some of the things he's doing, I'm doing too. And we used to butt heads all the time. I mean, that's just how it was in our house. I'd be like, you're doing this on purpose. And it turned out he wasn't. It just was his lack of focus, and the way he processed things were so different than what I thought it should be, because we're told, well, you should be able to give them a list and they get it done. No. So that's kind of where I found out about it. I had already had workarounds for myself that I had created, just because I didn't know what the issue was. And so when I just wanted to fit in, or wanted to do something, or wanted it to be workable or whatever, I just did it in the way that worked for me and my brain. That all changed about 4 years ago when I had a car accident, and I had what they call it a concussion, but they call it a mild TBI too. And so it changed my personality. It changed the way my brain was processing. And so my ADHD went from where I had it controlled most of the time to out of control, like 10 times it. And as that, figuring out how to do it all over again, and watching my older son, who was diagnosed about a year ago, and how he felt about it, I thought, you know what, we've got to have better ways for helping people deal with this, whether they're using medication, not using medication, whatever the way that they are doing it, to learn how their brain processes to be able to make things doable, fixable, being able to take care of the steps and the processes of their own thinking. Because honestly, how do we get stuff done? You don't do it the same way I do it, Amanda. And same back at you. I don't do it the same way you would do it. So we have to learn how to do it the way that our brain thinks. And when you're dealing with any type of neurodivergence or anything, your brain thinks a little bit differently. And guess what? It's okay. Just make it, a good time, instead of beating yourself up. I'm not doing it the same way they are. I know, long explanation.
No, but people need to know this, because I think, I'm seeing patterns in clients in particular when we're working together. They haven't been diagnosed, but I can see certain signs. There's a real lack of focus. And again, there's lots of different conditions that have the lack of focus, but particularly the last couple of years, the lack of focus. And I know with my own children who are teens now, we seem to have similar traits to them. I'm not somebody that scrolls or is on social media a lot. But even for me, I noticed that, I can't focus as long as I did. I will think that I've got the right time for a call, and then I haven't got the right time for a call. I'm like an hour out. Just little things I'm starting to think, hang on a minute, I'm losing focus or attention here. And I'm finding with my female clients, most of my clients are between kind of 35 and 55, very similar traits. And we're all kind of saying the same thing. I know some of it's menopausal, some of it's like stress, but I'd like to know from your experience and the people that you work with, what are some of the signs where you just kind of have to go, hey, just, you know, get it checked out, because there are tools and mechanisms and protocols to, like you say, to work around or to make it easier. So what kind of things could we be looking out for example?
Well, if you're finding that you used to be able to have the task list and now you can't look at this list without feeling very overwhelmed, that's a possibility. If it's you used to be able to think through processes and get it done, and now you're not, it's a possibility. A lot of this is a possibility. And as you said, it could be for many different reasons. And I will share with you, I'm glad you brought up menopausal, because when you're in premenopause and in menopause, sometimes ADHD can get worse. So if you have a mild form of ADHD and you don't know it because you're able to just figure out your own ways of doing it, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm walking around in a fog all the time, or why can't I ever get anything done, or why do I wait till the last second to finish anything? Those are just some of the symptoms of possibly you have ADHD, or possibly something has changed. And it may not be ADHD, it may be something else. But the reality is that, you know, sometimes hormones play a factor in it, and we have to really pay attention to that and recognize it. I mean, me, myself, and I've been in menopause for a while now, right? Okay, so how do we deal with it? And there's a lot of things that you can do. You can check out medication, you can check out therapists, you can check out getting coaches, whatever works for you to be able to process and create the processes for you, your brain, and the way the steps need to go for you. I mean, there's different types of ADHD too. So you have to really look at, where do I land and what works for me, and where do I see when I am making strides or moving forward, and what did I do to make it move forward? So do you need structure? Do you need it to be a little flexible? Do you need to be able to have an accountability? Do you have somebody that you body double with? And for those that don't know what body doubling is, it's basically like what we're doing right here, except that we would not be talking to each other. I'd be doing my things, you'd be doing your things, but somebody's here. So you're kind of feeling accountable, because it's a lot easier to let yourself down, but not somebody else. And even if they're not saying anything, for people with ADHD, it's almost like you're in the room with me. So there's a lot of little stuff like that that you can find out. Or how does your planner work? Do you need reminders? Do you need to write it down? Because when you write it down, it somehow connects better in your brain. Or do you just need the electronic calendars? So do you see what I mean? There's a lot of steps you have to walk through. Yeah, to figure it out.
And for you, what is like your favorite tool that was the most useful for you?
Well, actually, it's not even in my room right now. It's on my desk or my table in the kitchen. It's my planner, and I've been building it over the last year, but I built it in the way that it works for me. And so I use both. So I have my planner on my Gmail or your Google Calendar, whatever calendar that I'm using electronically, and then I also write it down. But for some reason, the two together works great. I also like structure somewhat. I do need flexibility within the structure. I know that sounds crazy, but I like structure because I know that when I get up in the morning, first thing I do is exercise, and then I get breakfast, and then I step into my work for the day. If I do that out of balance, yes, exactly. This block, and this block. But within those blocks, I also have flexibility. So it's kind of, I do both. And people are like, that doesn't make sense. It does in my brain. So I may have 2-hour block that I'm going to do it, but I'll work on something for 15 minutes, take a break for 5 or 10 minutes, go back 15 minutes, but I have 2 hours set aside for specifically doing work or doing my coaching, or setting aside an hour for my coaching session or body doubling session. So it's being able to start stepping into those things and not resisting it. Stop resistance. When you start resisting it, you're cutting off the tools without even trying it. You've got to try.
And what advice would you give to, because a lot of the women that come to me, we are beating ourselves up because we think we should, and I'm going to say shoulding over ourselves, we should be at this level, we should have completed that, we should have done this. What would you say to them, those people, in terms of kind of, like you say, increasing flexibility or permission?
Well, if the word says should is coming out of your mouth, stop right there. That should be your trigger to realize, okay, I'm shooting on myself, and that doesn't work. All it does is beat yourself up more, which then creates more of this bringing your self-worth down and your value down. And that's not who you are. If I would play by shoulds, I wouldn't even be on here with you right now, because that would mean that I don't think I'm of value any longer, that my program isn't of value, that my coaching isn't of value. Stop with trying to compare yourself. I'd say probably that's the biggest thing. If you are comparing yourself to someone else, wrong answer. Comparison is the thief of joy. And that statement is so true, because if I compared myself to you, Amanda, where you're at in your business and vice versa, we'd be both beating ourselves up, because you have these things that you're excelling in, and I have these things that I'm excelling in. And we both be sitting here going, well, that's not right. I should be there, and I should be as successful as Amanda be there. I should have that figured out for my program. No, we're different. We handle things differently, but at the same time, we also can support each other. So if we started with support, and when we feel like we have that moment of, we suck, we're not good enough, then we need to reach out to somebody else and start building them up, because when we build someone else up, we're building ourselves up. So that's my thought.
Exactly. And like what we're doing today, we, at the end of the day, we have similar crossover. We want to help people stop suffering. We want to help them get out of that, because we do get stuck. We get into that rut where we're not believing we can do it. And if you don't believe you can do it, then your business or your job, you're not doing so well. Then that starts to affect the relationships. And then when all those pieces start to, fall down, then it starts to affect the health. And when it affects the health, then you get that big wake up call, don't you? Like, you really need to deal with this now, especially for us that are mums or grandmas or great grandmas. I still don't know any great grandmas that look as young as you. So congratulations, Shaye. You're amazing. I always tell her that. It's amazing.
I'm very older,
Yeah. And I've met her son as well. He was very cheeky. He's very cheeky. And so, I think for us, it's really, it's focusing on our bigger objective, which is service, which is collaboration, and making sure that people have the information they need to make that decision. Oh, maybe I should go and get myself checked out. Or maybe I'm noticing my husband has some of those traits, or maybe my children, I'm noticing that what I'm saying isn't registering. I've tried it different ways. Maybe I just need to be aware of this. I'm also aware of I'm going to say the danger of labels. I might be a bit contentious here. I believe that one of my daughters has dyslexia and probably ADD, and the other one a little bit as well. But I said to them, even if you have that, let's not go fully into the label and start researching it and then start to create, manifest all the symptoms with it. Let's just be aware of it and know that we can tackle it in a different way, and we have to come at things a different way, but don't use it as a tool to disempower yourself and go into the victim, because you can go into the victim side of it. That's what I'm trying to say. We can give it a label, but just not make it
to go,
that is going to take you a route that isn't empowering. That's what I'm trying to say.
Well, and the part in that is when you realize, okay, so I have ADHD. I have it doesn't mean I am it. So it's not my identity. It's what I do. It's how I go through my day. And these are these are the characteristics of it. But that is not who I am. I'm Shaye, but I'm ADHD Shaye. I can be ADHD to the max some days, and other days I have it under more control, caffeine levels, who knows? Just kidding. But what I'm saying is, instead of like the labels, just embrace it, accept who you are, accept what it is, and realize that that's just a stepping stone. Like, if I did not accept my ADHD, then that would not be something I made right there. The little bunny you see in the background. Part of the ADHD that we get as a gift that people don't realize. And yes, we talk about superpowers with ADHD, and there's a superpower there, but I want you to look at it as a gift, because those gifts create. And when you create, you step out of this box everybody has you in. Oh, you're the ADHD kid, or you're the ADHD mom. Yep, I am. So what about it? I find the things that I have gifts with the ADHD, and then I try to take it and create. If I didn't accept my ADHD, it would be a battle every day. It would be pointing out all my flaws, all my weaknesses, all the things I do wrong. What's the point? Just to beat yourself up more?
Yeah.
Or can you accept it and say, you know what? You're totally right. I am off the wall today. And even my kids will tell me, Mom, have you had your caffeine yet today? Because I can't take medication. There's an extenuating circumstance with that. But even still, I find what works for me, accept it, embrace it, and be like, okay, so today this is how it's going to be. So how can we work with it? If you're more like that, then your creativity comes out. The ability to work with people, the ability to connect with more people comes out. Like this picture behind me, somebody made this picture. I have another painting across the room here from me, but she made me 2 of these, and it's just birds, and they're sitting on a tree limb. One's upside down, one's sitting on it, one's dancing over it. That's me. When I saw these things, I was like, oh, please, can I have it? Can I have it? Can I have it? You know? Because it totally resonated with me. And the one that's above on my bookshelf across the room, it's the same thing. It just is like, that's me. I love it. I'm all over the place sometimes. I'm sitting on the branch sometimes. I'm pondering sometimes. It's pieces of you. Embrace those pieces of you. And if you're having struggles, don't wait to get support. Find people that can support you and teach you how to do it. It may take a little time. Who cares? I mean, you can either sit in what you're doing now and 10 years from the road, you know, you're still in that same issue, or you can take some steps in the meantime and grow and build. I wasn't like this 5 years ago. I mean, 5 years ago was before the accident and everything was like, oh, calm. And I was a super people pleaser. Not anymore. I'm more like, thanks for sharing. Have a great day. You know, and I don't do it I don't do it to be mean. It's just more like, I know who I am now. Do you? Do you know where you're at? Do you know what you want to do? And if you need the help, then step out and ask somebody. Ask Amanda. Ask Amanda, like, if you don't know how to deal with this, Amanda, who do you know? Because it's going to come back to the person that's asking to get the help to move forward.
Exactly. Yeah. I think the important thing is the education part. And that's something that we're both doing. We're doing that education piece. Because the thing is, we think, I know for me, I'm very guilty of this. I think that everybody knows what I know. And I'm like, well, I can solve that in, you know, my main thing, for those of you, I know you're in my channel, my main thing is hypnotherapy, neurolinguistic programming, and frequency healing. So I know most 99% of situations, unless it's very strong mental disorders, I know that I can transform somebody in like anything between 10 and 40 minutes. So I'm very confident of what I can target. But if they don't know that they either have the problem or they're not completely aware of it, sometimes it's a little bit difficult. So it's important for us to say, hey, look, these are the issues. Are you experiencing this? Are you being triggered by anger? Are you in your family, you're being triggered by something and all this anger or negative emotions coming up and you have absolutely no idea why? Where is that coming from? And how is it causing problems in your relationship? All these little things, we're much more aware now. 20 years ago, people would just break up and nobody really worry about it. But now it's like, oh, let me think about the 5 languages of love. You know, there's so much more aware now with all social media. And I just want to step back a little bit to the labels again, is also with social media.
Yes.
I know with my children, again, it's not just about the label. It's like you say, separating, and I've done this with my children as well, always separating the behavior or the traits from the actual person. Right. As well. Social media, that doesn't always happen. You're not always separated from the thing. And you put it so beautifully that I'm embracing everything that I am, and it doesn't matter, because it's not necessarily who I am. It's part of who I am, but it doesn't define me. And I think that's really important with any issues that anybody's facing. You are not the anxiety, you're not the depression. It's not who you are. It's just a compartment over here that you can change and deal with. It doesn't define you. And I think that's really important to say, because I think with children, sometimes they go around saying, well, I've got some people are not very pleasant. And they're like, well, I'm not pleasant because I have ADHD. And I'm like, well, that's not necessarily always the.
Yeah. And I was going to interject here for a second and just say, there is a component to the irritability. There is a component to the reaction. There is a component to a lot of that, but that's, if you're dealing with ADHD, you have your issue of emotional regulation. But do you understand why you're freaking out? Do you understand why you just reacted when you're watching a movie and somebody comes up and asks you a question and you're like, oh my gosh, shut up. Right. You know, But it's just because in your brain, it literally is like you're focused on something and somebody has just come in and your brain is running at 100 miles an hour and they just slammed on the brakes. That's what it feels like. But that doesn't mean that you have to deal with it that way. It doesn't mean that you have to react that way. It does mean that you have the responsibility to tell your spouse, tell your children, tell your boyfriend, girlfriend, whoever, look, this is what it feels like in my brain. So be aware that when you're coming in and asking me something that I'm hyper focused, you may want to either back out of the room and wait till I'm done, or you may want to ask the question of, is now a good time? And if it's not, respect them, say no, because then that reaction may come. But if you ask, it's not so much of a jarring slam on the brakes for somebody's brain.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? If you knew that, Amanda, and you walked into your daughter's room and you're like, is now a good time? And you got to do it like, is now a good time? No, Mom, I'm in the middle of something. Okay, I'd like to talk to you about this later. Is that good? Sure. And then don't expect them to remember that they're going to talk to you later either. But at least you're asking and you're starting the process for them to start seeing you're aware, you're not going to cut in, and they're going to be willing to be able to step back into that. So it's, I mean, these sound like little things, but like you said about social media, what do we see on social media about ADHD? We see all the funny things. We see all the things that makes us different. We see all the things that cause us problem. We see all the things that could interfere with our day-to-day, right? Do you see the ways to fix it? Do you see the ways that you can do it differently? Do you see the education on it? Do you see how it's possible to interact with someone with ADHD? Sometimes, but not often.
Yeah.
So what do people do? They pick that up from the social media and they say, oh, that's me. I'm in a community now. I feel good because I felt like an outcast. Okay, create your own community, you know, and do that with the education. Why not?
I think that's really important. Like you said, it's awareness, isn't it? When you living with people with those traits, and like you say, it's different levels of different grades as well. So you have to be aware of, okay, what's going to happen in this circumstance? What's going to happen in this emotional state? What's going to happen if they're tired or if they've had too much sugar, or all those different varying traits and eventually to the person. So awareness and education, it comes back to the same thing, that you need to be aware that this is how we roll, like you say. And once you've got that diagnosis to a certain extent, then you can come in and say, okay, right, this is how I need to work, and for you to support me, this is what I need from you.
Well, and it also plays into the awareness and finding things out. Like you just mentioned something about too much sugar. Well, what if you're not getting enough protein? What if you're over caffeinating or under caffeinating? What if you're not eating enough? What if you're, not exercising at all? Does any of this play a factor with ADHD? I'm going to say absolutely yes, with an exclamation point right after that too. Because if you aren't paying attention to the physical, the mental side is going to be an issue too. On top of it, you've got to have them in sync. Does it mean you're going to be perfect at it? No. Some days I don't get enough protein, so my sugars go higher. Some days I get too much sugar. Some days, I don't exercise enough. Whatever it is, be aware of yourself and be aware of what you're doing to be able to create the things that you need for yourself, to have that focus, to have that capability of taking care of stuff, to not be so emotionally dysregulated, to be able to be aware of yourself and what you're doing. There's so many components. You can't figure it all out in one day, and you can't figure it out all in 1 hour or one visit with someone. Be prepared to build it one step at a time.
Yeah, and to have the idea of what you want it to look like. I think, we want to have whatever is going on in our lives. We all want that more peace, don't we? More calm. And just that flow. I love it when you're in flow and everything's going the right way. Again, when I've balanced everything on the food side, when my energy's up and all the other things, like you say, it's a balance. And again, back to education, knowing which elements to tick at which time, and then which things to let go of. So if people want to work with you, Shaye, and find out more about potentially, do you offer something where you can help them discover whether they do have those symptoms? And
I can't help them discover whether they do have the symptom, or not necessarily the symptoms, but if they're ADHD, I can't diagnose you, but I can give you a checklist that helps you walk through ways to be able to get through some of these symptoms. Dealing with the focus, dealing with the busy brain. That's what I call it, is a busy brain, because you don't necessarily have to have ADHD to have some of these symptoms and dealing with some of that brain fog or lack of focus. I mean, if you're super stressed, are you going to have a lack of focus? Of course. If you're overwhelmed, are you going to have a lack of focus? Of course. So the 10 tips for a busy brain is what I have on my website that people can go to and grab onto it. But you know what's even better is if they have a 15-minute chat with me, because I can help them hone down those 10 into the one that they really need to work on.
Got it. Okay. So what we'll do, folks, is underneath this video, I will put a link to Shaye's website so you can pick that up and download a sheet and book a call with her. So that is one of the best ways to get in contact with her. And I will put that below. Apart from your main website, is there any other ways that they can connect with you, Shaye? I'm assuming you're on some of the social media.
I am on Facebook and I am on Instagram. I'm also on LinkedIn. So you can reach me on any of those platforms to just send me a message and I'll grab it and we'll connect up and go from there. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So that's great. I know for me, I learned quite a bit today. I thought I knew a fair amount, but I've learned some more from Shaye today. So that's great. So if any of you are in the audience there just thinking, oh, it might be worth me just having a conversation with her, then do connect with Shaye and find out a little bit more about exactly what she does and how we can get these symptoms under control and to really make your life get into that kind of flow state where things are going, where you feel great, where you're confident, and you're getting to the intentions that are really important to you for 2025. So Shaye, thank you very much for being with me today. I know that you are super busy with business and family, so thank you for squeezing us in here at TV. And if anybody has any questions, then please pop them below this video and I will relay those to Shaye. Otherwise, contact her directly on her website, which I'll pop below in a moment. And we look forward to having you back here on the next episode of Align TV very, very soon. Take care, everyone. Bye for now.